Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Dior, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 11. Alright, I did have a loss before this one. My opponent outranged me and and had and I chose poorly for my ban pick. I ended up taking a Sissy White that I didn't need, and because of that, that meant I had one less DPS, and that essentially meant they got initiative on me, and I ran out of DPS before they did. That was essentially the situation. So yeah, our opponent, I will not attempt to pronounce this person's name. This is at the earliest time frame. I kind of much like the previous week, I was very exhausted from work and stuff. So I was just trying to get my win and be done with it. An interesting box to say the least. We haven't seen Ares in forever. We do have, I think I call him Rodham, but I think his name is something else. It's like Lotham, maybe? I don't remember. I know Eastern countries and stuff, their R's and L's tend to be a bit similar. There's also, for whatever reason, I can't remember his name. Grenier. SP Grenier, of all things. So yeah, we haven't seen Zeradas in a very long time either. So yeah, a lot of faces we don't usually see it on the opponent's side, rather. Also, one thing I think I've mentioned this before, but it feels like I always get player 2, which for my box is actually bad because I don't have Act Against, really, besides Sissy White, and hers requires build-up. So because of that, I end up always not having initiative, which hurts me because I tend to rely on a sniper character that requires setup. Besides that, the box is very rushed down, very much like the box I lost against, so taking that into account, I will give props. My opponent does not have a Wedum, so I was tempted to ban Ares, but I think Cherry is a bit more dangerous, longer due to long legs and double actions. Ares is not as scary because I usually always take Rose and Seal first, and Rose and Seal can at least help with the crystal healing to mitigate the charge AoE spam he tends to do. Anyway, bans my tank right off the bat. Makes it pretty clear what the purpose is. Actually opens with a Rose and Seal himself, so I was like, okay. So at this point, I was like, I need to get rid of some of their cav because I'm not going to be able to stop the cav. And I did. Lucretia is a real huge pain as always. Funny enough, the match I did lost was up against a Lucretia as well. Grab my Rose and Seal. These are going for my assassins, nothing new there. They get Cryura, who currently has no buff. So at this point I was like, alright, well I don't want to deal with teleportation, I don't want to deal with Lotham at all. I apologize if I'm saying the wrong name, I completely forget all the time. In fact, give me a moment. Okay, Wicked Gracer has him labeled as Rostam, of all things. Alright, so yeah, I went with Iron Blood Commander. Need to ban more of my assassins, no big deal. They go ahead and grabbed Elwyn, SP Elwyn. At this point I was like, alright, well, since it's mostly single target, I don't want to give you extra mobility or attack blessings, so got rid of TRS, and got rid of Ares at this point. At this point my opponent has 3 tanks and then 2 assassins left. So I went ahead and grabbed Silvaria. At this point I had to pick a assassin, else I was not going to have any. They banned my last assassin, banned Sissy White, which I don't care about. I mean, I could have used Sissy White to possibly defend against Elwyn, but I don't. Everything else so far is not that big of a deal. They grabbed Christiane. So at this point I was like, alright, well, I don't want to deal with you crit negating me, so I'll get rid of your one of your other tanks, get rid of Werner. And that leaves Zerda and Grenier. I'm not that afraid of Grenier, and Zerda requires setup usually. So, and once I have enough, if I put enough pressure on her, her talent gets negated as well. So at this point I grab Helena. Since my opponent has Christiane, I pretty much it's guaranteed that she's going to be probably infantry, and then she'll probably take spear troops, which I'm fine with. So Helena gives me a few more options. So they ban my casters, and they leave me essentially with Alicia and Narm, SP Narm here. They grab their Zerda, I grab my SP Narm. I grab SP Narm because she can at least buff herself. Alright, so Elwyn's starting buff is always annoying, but he can only buff himself. There is nothing that can buff Kyura. Rosen Seal is going to be buffed by Christiane. Christiane buff herself. And this Zerda did not bring faction buff, so she has no buff. She does have a 3C though in Bloodbath. This Christiane also has defense command and attack break. Also, it feels like the stats are kind of low on some of these characters. Yeah, they feel low. This Zerda has no attack buff at all. No attack buff. What could have no attack buff? Like, what's she equipped with? Give me a moment, I want to figure this out. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not that, even though I've played this game for a while, there are a few things I'm not familiar with, but like, my Sylvaria is using a Lurker Bow, which it itself doesn't actually have a +% attack bonus, but I do have a plus attack percentage from enchants, maybe. So maybe that's being applied, but I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know what's going on with this Zerda at all. Like, it feels like she doesn't have gear. So I don't know. In any case, besides that, Kyura is pretty standard. Yeah, usual stuff. I always assume that she has the range staff. Her intelligence is probably floating around. Probably that makes it feel somewhat accurate. But yeah, this Christiane doesn't have any of the usual staples that Christiane's supposed to have. It is a 6-star at least, so she does have the self-res, but she doesn't actually have any way of getting rid of effulgence. Like, she literally doesn't. She doesn't have a passive or an active skill that will get rid of it. So she is permanently stuck at 2 stacks, which means she'll never proc her full power of her talent, which actually makes her pretty vulnerable. And I don't know, stat-wise it kind of feels like I guess she's somewhat tanky. It's hard to say. In any case, over here, standard kit for Rosen Seal. My faction buff will buff everyone but Narm. Narm brought, of course, Sprint in her 3C. Since I don't need mass attack, I brought in Commander's Frosty for Ironblood Commander. I was tempted to try something other than Sandsea Mercenaries, but Sandsea Mercenaries are just that good that I was actually okay with just... If I get hit by Elwyn, I'm going to die no matter what troops I have. And chances are, even with the class disadvantage, I could probably still attack into Unicorns and Elwyn and still probably be on top. Because there's a Kyura, I went ahead and just swapped over to Angels. Also, I assumed my opponent was going to bring Spears, so I swapped from Dinos to Angels just to not have as much of a class disadvantage. Savaria, I went ahead and brought Disarm just in case, just to have some other options. And that's pretty much it. So, with all that, let's go. So yeah, this was I was kind of like wondering if my opponent was like an AI or autoed or something, because I found it really weird that my opponent just charged in and immediately went 3C. But this does put some pressure on me. I'm kind of I have to assume my opponent possibly has a Lurker Bow, in which case they would have an additional... Well, actually, no, they wouldn't. Lurker Bows only provide additional range if you move 3 or less spaces. So if Zerda goes full range, she only has 2 range no matter what. I think I still move as if she does though, just in case. So yeah, past turn in place, applied my formation buff. Really, it was just for herself. It does provide troop bonuses, but that's not a huge deal. Alright, moved in, did faction buff. So, spreading the crystals. Honestly, the crystal coverage here is actually kind of pathetic. I'm not getting very much mobility over here, but just kind of moving around just because the past turns to see what my opponent does. go, get set up here. Procs Breeze, of course, so at this point my opponent can reach my Rosen Seal, which I'm actually completely okay with. I do have Shrine Maidens, which do reduce damage by like 75% or something like that. Yeah, as long as I'm at full HP, which I am. And honestly, if I lose... I mean, the Rosen Seal is mainly here just the faction buff and provide some additional buffing. The healing's not really that big of a deal since I'm not going to get hit by... I'm either going to die in one hit or it's just going to be an... yeah, essentially I'm just going to die in one hit if something does hit me. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter because I'll just heal through passives from another character. In any case, went ahead and passed in place and got up the sniper. Immediately goes 3C, so I don't know what my opponent's doing, to be honest. I think I'm possibly... I don't know if this is just a new person for PvP or what. I mean, this is Gold 3, so... My opponent did get to this point somehow. Yeah, it was really, really strange. In any case, Kyra's range goes all the way to here. Iron Blood, we've seen in the past that Iron Blood Commander can survive a hit from an unbuffed Kyra. So I wasn't too terrified, but I was still a little nervous about that. But my opponent decided to go ahead and move in with Reign of Glory. So I lose pretty much all my buffs. I get rid of one of their buffs. Yeah, even with Shrine Maidens, he does a lot of damage. So at this point, I needed an excuse to move Iron Blood Commander, so I was like, you know what, let's see if I can actually kill Elwyn. And yes I can. I can definitely kill Elwyn with Commander's Ferocity. I mean, the soldiers were at disadvantage, but Iron Blood Commander is holy, so her alone was probably enough to kill everything. Especially since we docked him of some HP thanks to Silvari's talent. So, got rid of the first kill. Opponent moves in. Do a normal attack to go ahead and finish off Elwyn's second life. So essentially, I lost a healer, they lost a DPS. Technically, I did lose a faction buff. So if my opponent was particularly cheeky, what they could do is try to fall back and wait for the buffs to wear off, because at that point I would actually have no way of getting an attack buff up except through Narm, which only lasts for 2 turns. So, but as you can probably tell, my opponent was pretty impatient. Already rushed in with Elwyn just to kill Rosen Seal, which, sure, you killed my healer, but this box doesn't really rely on healing. So I did spread the crystals, which kind of, unfortunately, spread in a really bad way, because the mist is just going to eat up all the crystals anyway, so it doesn't really help. Either my opponent was being cautious, or my opponent really did not... was being cautious, or my opponent assumed that I had 10 range here. So the only thing I could shoot at was Christiane. Which, with the crit, I almost got kill. This Christiane does not have the talent that reduces range damage. So the only thing she had really going for her was the damage reduction from the talent. And that's pretty much it. Attack Break did proc, but I had Crystal Barriers, so it didn't matter. So, did pretty good damage. Against someone that's probably a more properly built Christiane, I'm pretty sure I would do far less, especially if I don't get the crit. In any case, Kyra did move up. She is covered by guard, so I'm kind of limited on my options here. But I can definitely reach Christiane if I need to, and attack with Helena. Problem is, of course, is I need to get through that guard, and the only person I can get through guard is Silvaria, and she needs setup to do that. So I will hand to Scarlet Awakening, and the idea here is to do 3C and dispel as many buffs as possible. Also, we'll definitely get kill. I did dispel the counterattack at 2 range, so she couldn't even counterattack me here. Also, she has no way of getting rid of Effulgence, like I mentioned before, which means she'll never get first strike. So the buffs that remain is When attacked by a ranged attack within 2 blocks, you can... Oh, I think... No, sorry. It wasn't that she couldn't attack, counterattack. It's the fact I first striked her. That's right. I had first strike because I was in attack formation. So what buffs remain now is she still has the 2 range counterattack in her defensive buffs, but she lost her guard. So at this point my opponent decided to move. She did have a range staff. She did not have Twilight Star, which means I do have Last Rites. Which even with a crit meant she couldn't get kill. And at that point my opponent gave up, which is probably good because she's definitely outside of guard range now. So I would just kill her next, and then that's all that leaves is the Zeradat that is unbuffed and unable to really do anything. So yeah, kind of a quick and easy match. I was tempted to not even make a video of this, but it kind of shows like what happens if you just rush blindly with your units. Like if he showed a little bit of patience, he could have eventually choked me out, especially if he kept proccing Breeze like he was. In which case I would have been in a lot worse position. And once if he was able to get rid of my Sylvaria, I'm pretty sure I would have had a lot more trouble. Because I would have to get through 2 lives of the tank before I can do anything to their DPS. And also, if they attacked as like a combined force and stuff, I would have had to deal with the Elwyn's extra life as well. Just out of curiosity, so that was an unbuffed Kyura, so there's also that reason why. Where are you? There you are. So yeah, it's been a while since I've had Last Rites actually do anything, because usually everyone has some sort of way of doing fixed damage before battle. But yeah, at 100% life, I reduced all damage taken by 40%, which definitely saved her there. Yeah, and I did have a green number for attack, even with a Lurker Sting. So I don't know what that Zeradat had. It was an Assassin Zeradat, which means she's limited to bows and knives. So I don't know what she had in that match. It was kind of confusing. I mean, unless one of the mercenaries for this year, or not this year, this season. First of all, I'm amazed people are not. Oh, it's a demon Wedem. It's a demon Wedem, not a flying Wedem. That would probably do it. That's kind of a cruel twist there. Yeah, nothing really that stands out. Okay, yeah, I don't know what was up with that. But in any case, that is pretty much it for this week. We got 2 more weeks of this. Chances are I'll probably not get gold 2. I've been kind of busy, and I don't exactly... And I seem to always run into somebody that's like a counter to my formation, or I screw up, so... But so far, the box has been doing pretty well. I'm pretty happy about how this is set up. I do like how it flows pretty well. It does lead to kind of the same sort of battles, at least same formations for me, because, you know, I open with Rose and Seal, go straight to Iron Blood, then to Sylvaria. It gets a little quirky if they ban someone like Iron Blood, which some people do. But even then, I'm okay with just being like, okay, go Rose and Seal to Sylvaria, maybe. Or maybe go grab Lucretia first, just so I can have an additional attack, mass attack. I definitely have a lot of fun using Sylvaria. She is a bit of a tricksy character, kind of like God, names are just kind of like Sherlinka, but a lot easier to use than Sherlinka. Sherlinka had set up, and then there was a lot of things that were based off the opponent's formation to make it work, which was kind of difficult. I think I didn't talk too much about the recent events, but yeah, the second phase of the Forbidden Battlegrounds came out. I did try out the Wandering Duelist. She actually does pretty well, even in PvE. Her ability to kind of put that debuff on people, and then use that debuff to essentially chain a bunch of passive negations is actually really helpful. Besides that, there's not much else to talk about. I've been kind of burning through my Gate of Fates and gradually trying to get everyone to 6 stars. So I think that's enough rambling from me, so I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I'm the Oppressed Hero. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 11. I'll see you guys later.